So this is huge. This is actually insane that they're gonna do it. They're gonna go through with it. I could not be happier. As a person who plays on EU and NA on almost every game, as a lot of you know, I started my account and my main stuff and all my, like, everything is on EU for me with games, usually. And, yeah, cross region travel is the most amazing news that we have had in a while. Draining is completely right about that. I have been on EU, and I recently was forced to move into US, and so I came to NA, but it's been really difficult to adjust because I have so many friends on EU that I really miss. I met a bunch of y'all at FanFest, and I had so many people coming up to me saying, "Oh my God, like, we miss you so much on Phoenix." I'm like, I really miss you all too. Like, I've been thinking about actually returning to Phoenix, or I've been working on an alt there, but FFXIV is probably the most alt unfriendly game ever. I honestly can't think of a more alt unfriendly game than FFXIV. Like, it's insanely alt unfriendly, and it is because no one really cares about that much usually, because you can just do everything on one character. So the fact that it's so alt unfriendly is usually something we can just say, oh, you know, well, whatever. Just pick one character you really like and put everything on that. But it's not ideal, right? So, for example, whenever we did DSR, like I server transferred to I can't talk, NA from EU. And a really good friend of mine from EU transferred over to NA to help lead that DSR that was Sully. What Sully didn't know is that if you actually server transferred cross regions, if you do that, you're not allowed to go back to your original region for 3 fucking months. As it stands right now. So, like, we finished DSR, right? And Sally's like, okay, we're done. I'm going back to EU. And we're like, okay, goodbye, Sally. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. We're crying. Oh my God, it was such a wonderful experience. Thank you. Goodbye. And then he's like, okay, I'm on my way. Goodbye, everyone. And then he's trying to transfer back. And he's like, I can't get back. He was literally trapped. Yes, he was stuck on NA for 3 fucking months. He was like, I remember I wrote some of my contacts at Square Enix. I'm like, hey, is there no way around this? There was not. There's no way around it. You have to wait. So he had to fucking... Oh, but I think he also had Top Prog coming up on EU with his static on EU. So I'm pretty sure Sally had to, like, get an alt ready to go and do Top. In like a couple of weeks. Yes, it was a disaster. He did it, though. He did it. Oh my God, yeah, that's Sully in the chat. Here he is. I had to make a new character and blitz the raid tier for here. So anyway, that's the reason why the cross-region data center travel would be really good, so that when you want to go hang out with your friend on EU or vice versa, you're not trapped there for 3 fucking months. Why do they have this? Why is that a rule? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, there's no reason why that should be the case. There's no logical reason why that should be the case, right? None. I can't think of any. Like, maybe 3 weeks. But even then, like, you're paying them money. It's not like it's a free transfer, you know? You have to pay for that. Anyway. Account management is not FFXIV's strong suit. There's a lot of wonderful things about this game. Account management ain't one of them at all. But anyway, this is huge news, and they said that they're going to let us test this out on March 24th. Now, here's the thing about this. In the past, Yoshi P has said, hey y'all, yes, we have the technology for y'all to just easily visit, do the data center travel across the region. But, we don't want to do it. We don't want to turn on the button because of cultural differences between the regions. And what he means by that is the fact that there's different rules for etiquette on different regions. Like, for example, in Japan data center, they have the rule that is whenever, for example, if a bunch of loot drops off of a boss, right? If you're on NA or EU, typically what we all do is we all roll need on everything that we want. And if you happen to get everything, you get really lucky, everyone's like, yay, good for you. I'm so happy for you. You know, it's fine. It's normal to do that. You might win everything if you're lucky. You might get nothing, right? We just kind of leave it up to chance, and that feels fair to us. But that's not how they do it on JP server. So over there, what they do is, if a bunch of loot drops off of a boss, everybody rolls, they go from left to right on the drops. So then everyone rolls on the drop, the first one. So whoever gets it, gets the loot and fucking leaves the instance. And then the next person, everyone rolls on the next, and then whoever gets it gets the loot, and then they leave. And they just do that item by item so that it's more evenly distributes the loot and make sure that it's more likely everyone will leave with something. That's something that we don't do. It's just a cultural difference. It's a different way of approaching it. I'm not saying one way is better than the other way. It's just different. And there's a lot of little things like that in how players approach the game differently. Like, for example, in EU, people usually raid by sharing macros that show where you should stand and like what your position should be in a very clear and concise way that like shows through the text chat like a layout of the arena and where everybody's going to be in relation to certain mechanics. And in NA, everyone just kind of Pepe Gas their way through that. So Yoshi P is concerned that there's going to be some cultural clashing whenever NA travels to an EU data center and everyone's like, okay, I'll take the M1 position and I'll take R2, and NA's like, but I put down a marker. Let's all stand around it. But where is M2 in relation to the marker? So anyway, I think this is actually really good because, yeah, and the weight mark is just a suggestion. Am I gonna have to pull out that, do I have to pull out the meme again? I think I do. I have to pull it out. I feel like I have to do this every time I talk about this. I've never seen a better explanation of why there could be some cultural issues, which is the reason that they didn't want to give us cross-region data center travel yet. This, I think, demonstrates that really well. Okay. Rating in EU JP. Here's the macro. Okay. Okay.
Meanwhile.
Only no travel. I never done the strat. What is back? I don't move to west. Where am I? It is better. Just rotate. Go. So rotate. I'll explain you one more time so you understand it. I don't give a shit with every PFC. I don't care what they do. I'm the party leader. I know my strats. Can we hop out? Forgot to buy food. What strat is this? I didn't read PF. Haha. Oh my god. It's fucking hilarious. So anyways, yeah, I have to show that every time because I think it's extremely funny, but that is really the reason why this part of the reason why there's gonna be some issues between these things. If NA could read, they would be very upset. I do actually think that with the cross-region data center travel, that's the link to that. It's one of my favorite memes ever. With it, that people will learn about macros, and I think it's going to be a lot better for everybody because I guess I'm biased. I've experienced both systems. I've rated on NA and I've rated on EU, and honestly, the macros are straight up better. It's objectively better. There are sometimes fights though that are simple enough that a macro is enough. Like, okay, maybe you only need clock spots and maybe you only need 2 groups. In that case, I guess you're fine. But usually the macro helps a ton. Also helps people understand what strat are we using without having to use some kind of code that you have had to spend a lot of PF time already to understand what it means. But anyway, they decided that they were going to let us test this out, and what this means is they're going to see how it goes before Dawn Trail. They think that it's going to help with the release of Dawn Trail because there's going to be tons of people logging in and login queues. So I think it might be easier for people to actually access the game and bypass some of these gigantic queues by just making it easier to travel to different places to log in, which is really good for the expansion launch if they can implement it and have it be smooth by then, because that's probably the most annoying thing about an expansion launch. You want to get in, but like I remember with Shadowbring, I think this actually happened with Endwalker launch too. You could just be sitting there and be like 40,000 in the queue, and then you get disconnected while you're in the queue and you get reset back to like, it sucks. But they're going to let us test it out, and hopefully everyone will be on their best behavior and we don't have some international incident that makes OCP want to turn it off. I feel like that's a thing that could happen. You're going to smuggle coke into NA. I'm pretty sure they have it already. Another big thing is that it will rescue Oceania. Will rescue the Oceania data center, which is really been struggling a lot because it's just they've been kind of all by themselves without cross-region travel. It has been difficult for people who are physically located in that region to use that data center, just because like all of their friends are on other data centers, and it's like if Dynamis was the only data center and there was no way to travel to Ether to get to PFs. But it's like that all the time, and it's a lot worse of situation because of the low population there. So yeah, it's good. But it looks like for this test, they're only gonna allow that. Going from NA to Oceania, EU to Oceania. That's the main thing. This is probably the safest thing to test without taking into account any other kind of things. But I think that I will be, I do think that, especially with this news, I am definitely going to be returning to EU. I'm going to transfer back to EU because I know a lot more people there. There's been a few people I've met in NA that have been just delightful. But because now I don't really feel bad about transferring back to EU because, you can just visit me anytime. It's not a problem. We're not going to be cut off anymore. But that's not going to be implemented, it looks like, until, assuming all goes well, until the new patch, the new expansion.